Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is continuing the perfect bounce from this exact area of support after perfectly wiping out the downside liquidity just over the last one day. But we're now heading towards this upside liquidity, which we are now wiping out at the same time as running into a crucial area of resistance in the immediate short term. And this is happening while the US stock market played out a decent bounce after the latest drop off in the short term, which is something that we need to pay attention to alongside Ethereum. Also playing out a decent continued bounce here from this exact area of support alongside XRP, also continuing to hold this crucial area of support here. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to take a quick look at the US stock market today. This is the S&P 500 index on the 4-hour time frame, and over the last one day, we first of all opened the trading day much lower than the previous close. In other words, we saw a major drop here, but then throughout the trading day, we actually basically saw a major rebound and recovered a lot of those losses, as we could see. In fact, we ended the day green, as we can see right here, breaking out back above this crucial area on the price chart. And so overall, the day in the end was actually quite bullish. We saw a major bounce in the shorter term despite the initial drop off in the US stock market. So of course, this major bounce in the short term for the stock market can help with a very likely some sort of major bounce for the crypto market. As usual, crypto and stocks are highly correlated. So if we're seeing a decent bounce like this in the stock market, expect some sort of little bounce or bullish relief at least in the crypto market is a very likely scenario. So keep that in mind throughout the video. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, here on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the red. And of course, we still have a massive bearish divergence playing out on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, which means overall, of course, the longer term trend still not looking good, still not in the clear yet. But if we're taking a look at the 3-day Bitcoin price chart during the much larger bearish trend, we're still in the short to mid term here, basically bouncing in a bit of a range, very similar to what we saw near the end of 2025, where we were kind of just bouncing around slightly in the bullish direction during the much larger bearish trend, very similar to what we're seeing right now. And as for support and resistance to watch out for, we still have some support at give or take 63,000, a lot of support at around 60,000, and a lot of support in between around 53,000 to 56,000. And as for resistance, we have significant resistance in this area sitting in between around 72,000 to 76,000. So continue to expect the price to struggle or possibly reject from around that area on the price chart, as we saw around half a week ago, exactly as expected here. And if we're taking a look at the short-term moves here on the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, of course, I recorded my last video right here before that final initial drop right here. And of course, following that move, we did see the initial drop down towards this support and then a bounce from that support, which is what I talked about in my last video. Obviously, we had liquidity building towards the downside below the price at that stage in my last video just yesterday, which was sitting at roughly 66,000 give or take, and we perfectly wiped out that liquidity. As we can see right here, we dropped towards the downside slightly below 66,000, exactly into this precise area of support here, and then bounced from that area. Once again, this area of support has not moved over the last one day. It's still sitting at 65.5k to 66,000, which is the exact area we bounced from. And then once again, as the price was running into that support and starting to bounce from that support, we saw the US stock market open back up again with a major bounce throughout the trading day, which helped assist Bitcoin and other cryptos with a bounce in the short term, ultimately just bouncing from this major support here in the short term. So obviously that's what's being playing out right now in the shorter term, exactly as predicted, especially before the bounce right here, that liquidity, wiping out that liquidity towards the downside. But now over the last one day, we've been moving towards this upside liquidity, which as I've recorded the video is pretty much already just about being wiped out as I've recorded this video, sitting at around 69.4 to 69.5k. And of course, we also have resistance in this area on the price chart that I've been talking about, sitting in between 69,000 to 69.5k. So expect the price to struggle or possibly reject from around this area on the price chart. And as for the next resistance, in case we actually confirm a breakout here, in that situation, I would expect the next strong resistance resistance starting in the low 70K area, especially closer towards around 72,000. Once again, at the lower end of this significant area of resistance on the 3-day time frame. We still have a lot of resistance around there, but the immediate area, once again, 69,000 to 69.5K is the immediate resistance to pay attention to. And considering that at least right now, as of recording this video, the US stock market just closed for the day, it's likely that in the short term, Bitcoin is kind of just going to struggle a little bit around this resistance. And then potentially tomorrow, for example, when the US stock market opens back up again, if we continue a bit more of a relief here, that could potentially help with some sort of breakout here for Bitcoin and crypto is a very likely scenario, ultimately just continuing the short-term bounce. But between now and then, over the next 12 to 24 hours, just in the immediate short term here, expect the price to struggle a little bit around this short-term resistance and ultimately remain in this larger range, which once again is occurring within a much larger bearish trend. And if you want to actually trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or any crypto, you need to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And if you use the first link below the video in the description and in the pinned comment, that first link below this video will take you to this page right here over on the 2bit crypto exchange, which by the way is a no KYC exchange and is an exchange that I personally use myself. And if you simply use that link below the video to make your 2bit account, once again on this page right here, you can see a 3.5 million USDT prize pool up for grabs simply just by trading crypto using that first link below the video. And on top of that, if you're making your account using that link below the video, there's also exclusive bonuses that are only available if you use that link below the video to actually make your account. So simply just by trading crypto, you can get up to an extra 200 USDT in actual withdrawable USDT into your 2bit account just by trading crypto. So obviously, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well check this out. Take advantage of this. Once again, first link below the video to 2bit. And remember, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and right now in the imminent short term, we're seeing a slight bounce, which is ultimately just undoing the previous pullback, which undid the previous bounce, etc., ultimately just bouncing around relatively sideways. So in terms of the larger trend or momentum that we're seeing right now, still very neutral, which means a lot of the altcoins on average will still likely be performing very similar to whatever Bitcoin does. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now the price of ETH is of course in a much larger bearish trend, but we're still trying to play out this oversold signal in the 3-day Ethereum RSI in the somewhat short to mid-term here. And obviously that's been happening basically every day over the last 1 month now, very similar to what we saw near the end of 2025. And so that is still the situation on the 3-day time frame. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price chart, the price of ETH right now is continuing to perfectly bounce in this exact sideways price range that I've been talking about for around a month now on the channel. Since the moment we entered into this range, I've been talking about this support and this resistance and how it's very likely we're going to bounce between this support and this resistance. And right now, this support is still sitting at just above 1.8K, more specifically around 1810 to 1820. And this resistance is starting at just above 2.1K, more specifically in between around 2150 to 2250 as a strong area of resistance to watch out for. So right now, that is still the case on the daily time frame. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term moves on the 4-hour time frame, just over the last 1 day, we perfectly bounced from this exact area of support that I've been mentioning recently here on the channel, sitting at just above 1.9K, more specifically in between 1910 to 1930 as the exact area of support that we perfectly bounced from over the last 1 to 2 days here. And as for resistance, we are getting closer towards some major resistance based on these previous highs, sitting at give or take $2,050 to $2,080. I would expect some short-term resistance around here. And if we ultimately continue the bounce a little further towards the upside in that situation, once again, we have significant resistance in between 2150 to 2250. So overall, yes, we're continuing to play out a shorter term bullish move, bouncing from support, but be aware that very soon we're going to be approaching some major points of resistance where the price could start to struggle at or possibly even turn around at. But ultimately, expect very similar price action for Ethereum in the short term as what I said for Bitcoin just a moment ago in this video. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the weekly time frame, in terms of the longer term multi-month trend, it is obviously still bearish. We've not yet fully confirmed any reversal or end to the larger bearish trend, so keep that in mind. But of course, in the somewhat shorter term here, we're continuing to run into this crucial area of support, still sitting in between $1.30 to $1.40. So obviously continue to expect support in that area. And if the price were to eventually break below that area with confirmation, so a weekly candle close below $1.30, especially if we fail to get back above that area, in that situation, the next major point of support I'll be watching would be sitting at around $1.13. And below that, the next major area of support would be sitting in between 90 cents to $1. But once again, $1.30 to $1.40, still the immediate support to pay attention to. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, we're still ultimately playing out this short-term oversold signal here in the 3-day XRP RSI. And so continue to expect most likely a little more choppy sideways price action here in a bit of a range moving forward in the coming days or potentially weeks for the price of XRP. And in terms of the imminent short-term moves, what to expect over the coming hours or days, ultimately just follow my Bitcoin analysis to figure out what is very likely going to happen for XRP and a lot of altcoins in the short term. But that is still the situation in the midterm and the longer term. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day Solana price chart, right now the price of Solana is obviously still in the much larger multi-month bearish trend. But once again, in the short to midterm, like I've been saying throughout the video and many videos over the last 1 month now, we're ultimately still in this range for the price of Solana, bouncing between support and resistance, heading slightly in the bullish direction, very similar to what we saw near the end of 2025 during the much larger bearish trend. So that's still the situation on the 3-day time frame. And as for support and resistance, we have a lot of support still sitting in between around $75 to $80, and a lot of resistance starting at close to $95. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Solana price chart, obviously over the last few days, we perfectly played out this bearish divergence just in the short term here with a shorter term pullback, resetting the RSI. But now we're simply just following Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. with these shorter term bounces right now. And of course, that is the situation for the price of Solana, just following basically the rest of the market with a short term bounce. And so once again, simply just follow my Bitcoin analysis to figure out what is very likely going to happen for the price of Solana moving forward in the short term, which does suggest that pretty much right now we are running into a bit of resistance, which is also based on these highs sitting at give or take $86.50. But if we actually continue a breakout beyond $86.50, in that situation, the next significant resistance, at least in the short term, is sitting at around $89.60. And then above that, once again, closer towards $95, we have strong resistance around there. And if we're taking a look at Chainlink on the 3-day time frame, it's a very similar situation here. The much larger multi-month or longer term trend is still currently bearish, but the short to mid-term situation is that we're still in this range right here, heading slightly in the bullish direction over the last 1 month or so, exactly as predicted a month ago now on the channel, playing out this oversold signal in the 3-day Chainlink RSI, ultimately bouncing from this support, rejecting from resistance. We still have support in between around $7.90 to $8.50 and strong resistance in between around $9.50 to $10. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 4-hour time frame, the price actually successfully broke out back above this previous area of support here, which we briefly broke below over the last 1 to 2 days, and that was sitting in between roughly $8.60 to $8.70. So obviously now that we're back above that area, I would indeed expect support in that area if we ultimately test that area again. But as for short-term resistance to watch out for, we're pretty much running into resistance right now based on these highs right here, and of course these highs right here sitting at roughly around $9 to $9.10. But once again, if we ultimately continue the bounce a little further towards the upside, we also have significant resistance starting at around $9.50 and going up towards around $10. So just keep that in mind. Even though, yes, we're playing out a short-term bounce, we still have points of resistance along the way where the price could start to struggle at or possibly even reject from. And in terms of what is very likely going to happen in the short term, just follow my predictions for what I said for Bitcoin, follow my Bitcoin analysis to figure out what is very likely going to happen for Chainlink. But ultimately, those are the key levels and signals to watch out for moving forward for Chainlink and really the overall crypto market based on all of these altcoins right here. And if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, once again, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to take advantage of massive bonuses only available using those links to certain exchanges. And if you want to actually know how you can trade these moves no matter what direction the price goes, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen, because the video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.